4 of Chris Sweeney Talks To. Today I'm joined by the reigning Miss Great Britain, and we are going to discuss the issue of being fat. Now, those are probably two things you don't think would be in the same sentence, but they are. It's a new world. Embrace it. So, Kat Henry, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. Thanks a lot for coming on and talking. So you are the reigning Miss Great Britain. So I actually spoke to you a couple of years ago or in the past, but you've been building up to it. So maybe tell us a wee bit about that journey and sort of, finally getting there and standing on the top step. How was it?
It was a big achievement for me. I took part in Miss Great Britain for the first time back in its 75th anniversary in 2020, just before the lockdown. And I came third, and I was well chuffed about coming third. It was quite history making for somebody who looked like me to even get into like the top 5, so I was quite impressed. But I'm not content with being third place, so I went back the next year, and I won in September. I won the place of Miss Great Britain. I'm the first plus size woman of colour to ever hold that title in the competition's 76-year history. So it's quite a big thing, and if I'm totally honest, it hasn't really made any like mainstream press insofar as actually reporting that to the wider world, and that's a little bit worrying, really. It makes me think, is that because of the fact that I'm plus size, and is it because of the fact that I am a woman of colour that maybe people feel like it's not something that should be reported on? But I think it's a huge achievement, not obviously for me personally, yes, of course, but I think it's a good milestone for people to see representation for all different shapes and sizes in something so big as Miss Great Britain.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if we take it with Britain or America, and I think someone says model or Miss Great Britain or Miss USA or whatever, I think automatically we're all biased and we're all thinking a very thin blonde girl. That just tends to be the situation, and it shouldn't be, but I think that's just it's just such a stereotype. You talked about being plus size and a woman of colour. Now, I mean, I'm not saying, which is more of a barrier in that world, but is there one in particular where you feel, about your appearance that may hold you back in that world, or is it not like that?
Probably more so the fact that I'm plus size. Actually, to be quite honest, especially over the last, I'll say 3 to 4 years, there's been a lot of representation for women of colour actually achieving some major titles within pageantry. We've had Miss USA, we have Miss World, we've had, Miss, like all kinds of different, like, Miss England. All different people from all over the world have been women of colour and actually taking home those titles. But you don't often see a plus size woman or any sort of woman that has any sort of like big boobs, big hips, big bum representing in those mainstream pageants. And that's quite worrying, because the general size is a 16, a UK 16, which is what I am. And I just don't understand why that's a problem. I don't understand why that's not represented as much as it should be.
Absolutely. I mean, just to sort of, to talk about it, I mean, the word fat, we're all sort of maybe conditioned to think of that as a bad thing. If you call someone fat, it's like an insult, and, don't say that kind of stuff. But you sort of look at the word differently. You maybe don't embrace it, but you accept it as a word, and you don't feel people should be sort of walking around eggshells about using it.
No, it's a descriptor. It's an adjective. At the end of the day, it's a way to describe me. I've in the past, yes, when I was a lot younger and I was taunted and bullied for the fact that I was fat, it did hold a lot of negative connotations back then, because I was young and growing up, and I didn't understand that I could take back the power of that word. But actually now, as an adult who is fully confident in the body that I inhabit, I don't see it as a negative thing. It is just a way of describing me. Yes, I am fat. Yes, I'm not thin, and I'm okay with that. But that doesn't define me as a person. It's just a way of describing me.
And in terms of growing up, was it something that you were very conscious of? Was it a kind of case of being called that, or maybe going to buy clothes and you couldn't find clothes that you liked or fitted? Was all that sort of a big issue sort of growing up for yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was always quite a chubby child. I have always been big boned, I guess, as people like to say. But I've always had big hips. I've always had big boobs. I grew up being a fuller sized figure, and I was taunted as a child and bullied for my weight, and by peers, by people in the general public, people who didn't know me at all. And I did have to kind of deal with that all the way through my life. And yes, I did find it difficult finding clothing. You know, back in the day when I was, you know, a teenager, there was probably only maybe 2 or 3 shops that actually stocked clothing for women who were bigger sizes. And that, you know, those clothes were built like tents. Like you either had to wear extremely large men's oversized clothing, or you had to wear this tent-like clothing that was representative of what women who were plus size should be wearing. And it was to hide your figure. It wasn't to you know, highlight your natural assets and you know, make your curves look the best that they can. They were to hide them and to drown them in materials so that people don't pay any attention to them. And that's just not where fashion is these days. You know, it's got a long way to go, I think, in terms of allowing accessible fashion for all different shapes and sizes, but we're definitely on the trajectory of making clothing and fashion accessible for everyone.
Obviously yourself, Kat, you know, you're a very confident woman. You know, you've achieved your Miss Great Britain, you've done a lot, but maybe younger people, particularly females, teenagers, you know, embracing the word fat or using that word might be quite hard. You know, do you have an opinion on that? Because obviously we don't want to see anyone feeling pressured or having a complex and people insulting them, but I guess at the same time, maybe we've got to get away from this idea of being bigger or a different shape is a negative.
Yeah, I think the first step in that journey is acceptance, and people have to be less judgmental of everybody, regardless of what they look like. That's the first base point. But the actual word of fat as itself can still hold negative connotations for people, and not everybody is as comfortable with the word as people who think like me. So it's it's a difficult situation, because you can't just go around banding that word around assuming that everyone's going to be okay with it, because it means different things to different people. You know, you've got people that may have been abused and, you know, physically abused and have that physical like trauma attached to that word, and if you were to go and say that to that person, that could, you know, spike a whole level of different kind of feelings, which you don't want to do, and you don't want to cause offense. So it's probably best to err on the side of caution and not call someone fat, in case it can offend somebody. But if you see that person using that word like I do as an adjective, then perhaps question and sort of say, like, is it okay for me to sort of address you in that way? Like, and if that person turns around and says no, accept that. But if they turn around and say, yeah, of course, it's just a word, then take your direction from that person that you're speaking to. You know, it's just being a bit more mindful of people and their own personal circumstances. What's good for one might not be good for everyone. Yeah,
there's never going to be a one size fits all for people, because we're all different. We've all been through different experiences. No matter if we look similar or don't look similar, it's what's on the inside, I think, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in terms of, I mean, if we sort of bring in someone like Kim Kardashian, you know, and as you can probably tell, I am no fashion expert, so you know, I will defer to you on this. But I mean, from what I understand, you know, Kim Kardashian has a particular shape, and you know, people try to recreate that shape, or they maybe even do special exercises to look like that. They wear clothes, or they may even get surgical changes to their body to be bigger, if shall we say, in certain areas. Has that surprised you, and do you think that's a good trend, or do you think that's maybe not tackling the problem in the right way?
I think it's very subjective. It's going to be different for everybody, but personally I think that you should inhabit the body that you own and find the best version of that possible. I'm not a huge believer in surgical enhancements. I don't think you need to surgically enhance your body personally to make it look better, unless you physically have something that you want to change that is causing you distress. So for me, I think that the natural body shape is how a body should be. Now, I appreciate that people don't feel like that. There's obviously a lot of people who have enhancements, and, you know, good luck to them, but it's not for me personally. But I don't think that you should aspire to want to make something look different if that's not how you naturally look. You can improve your body and make it look the best version of it can be, but, you know, I wouldn't expect somebody to be wearing like an extremely tight waist trainer to get that defined hourglass figure, because that's not doing something that's going to do good things for your body. You can achieve your a slimmer waist by eating right, by exercising well, and, you know, looking after your body. You don't have to go to such drastic measures to get there. And I think that some people are kind of taking it to that extreme, and that's not necessarily where we should be teaching the youngsters of today how we should be. It should be a more guided way of, firstly, like I said earlier, acceptance of the body that you inhabit, and then changing it or enhancing it, you know, with more natural methods to make it look the best that it can.
Yeah. Because I think we're all programmed, and we hear about extreme dieting or words like anorexia. People are right. That's an illness, you know, serious. But then if someone says, well, I'm maybe getting implants to make to make me look more curvy, or I'm particularly building a part of my body, we don't look at that the same way in society. It's not just, and I think maybe it's because someone's becoming curvier or bigger, shall I say. We seem to have a natural, if someone's becoming thinner or smaller, we're worried. But if they're going the other way, we don't seem to worry about it so much, you know. And it maybe highlights what you're saying a little bit.
That's crazy that you say that, because actually I don't think that is the case. I think
really,
that especially as a plus size person, I'm praised for losing weight, even if I'm not necessarily effectively losing weight. Now, I'm a full-time Zumba instructor, so I teach 21 fitness classes a week, and over the last 4 or 5 years that I've been teaching fitness classes, my body shape has changed, and I have inevitably lost weight. However, I've not been on an active weight loss plan, because that's not something that's in my plan. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm happy and confident in my body. But when you exercise more, your body shape will change. You're going to grow muscle, you're going to tone up, you're going to, change your shape. You're going to lose water weight, all these sorts of things. So, people always praise me and say, oh, wow, Kat, you look amazing. Like your waist is so thin, or, you look so in shape. And I'm like, well, thank you, because I know they mean well. But essentially what, could be happening is actually I've gone through some horrible things in the last 2 years. I've lost my mum as a result of COVID. I've been through quite a lot of health issues over the last 4 years. You don't know what's going on in somebody's head. I've battled an eating disorder for many, many years, and actually you're praising somebody for, losing weight because they look good, because that's what we are conditioned to say, that thinner is better and larger is bad. But actually you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, which could be leading to that person losing weight. So it is a really difficult conversation, and I feel like we do need to be more open and honest about talking about these things, so the conversation can be more open. But yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, I think, on that. And people are genuinely praised for losing weight, but when you gain weight, look at it. Look how people have praised Adele for losing weight, but when she was larger, she was the ridicule of every paper every time she went into the mainstream media. So it is a crazy world, and social media is fueling that. But we do have to do a lot of work on finding the right balance.
Well, I'm glad you corrected me there, because like I say, I'm no fashion expert, but also certain social things maybe I'm not aware of. I'm a guy. I'm maybe in a different sort of environment or whatever it may be. So I'm glad you brought it up, because I would have always thought, right, okay, we've sort of gone. I would never walk up to somebody and say, oh, you've lost weight, because I would have think, right, don't mention it. It's their business. But like you see, maybe people think they're giving you a compliment when they're sort of just barging in without maybe any due care and thought.
Yeah, but also there's a flip side of that. So like in like Western cultures, it's not necessarily so bad, but in like African cultures and Indian cultures, being like plus size or having more weight on you is actually something that shows your level of like how much money you've got, like how well you're fed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're thin, then people start to question, like, are you not eating enough? Like, do you need some more money? Like, do we need to feed you? So it's cultural as well. It's not just about this thin and fat thing. There's so many different levels of it, and it's such a huge conversation. We could be talking here for hours, Chris. Like literally, it's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, totally, and absolutely, and also sort of being a woman of colour, and in terms of finding that acceptance, has that, what sort of journey's that been like for yourself? Have you noticed a difference? Maybe we've had this sort of BLM thing the last couple of years. Have you noticed a big difference, or had that sort of acceptance, people more open to your appearance because of your colour? Had that sort of started a bit earlier in your life?
I've dealt with like racism all my life. I think I'm also from a multiracial relationship, my partner's white and I'm not, he doesn't see the looks and the like comments that we get when we're walking down the street, and he kind of passes them off as if they don't exist because they don't affect him. However, for me personally, I do notice them, and that's because I've grown up with it. To give you an example, I mean, like, you know, since I won Miss Great Britain, I did an interview on talk radio with Trisha Goddard, and the level of vitriol and racism I had in the comment section as a result of that interview was absolutely horrific. Like, so many people sort of saying, you know, why is somebody of her colour Miss Great Britain? Like, she only ticked a diversity tick box quota. Like, you know, I'd like to see the other people. Nobody would want a fat person as Miss Great Britain. Like, I've literally had every single comment thrown at me. Some people telling me to go and die. Some people telling me to, you know, go kill myself because I'm not worthy, or I shouldn't be representing Great Britain. I should go back to my own country. I was born here. You know, all of these sorts of things. Like, it's just, it's horrific. And I'm so glad that my mum raised me to be a thick-skinned person who takes people's opinions, appreciates that everybody has one, but don't let that opinion penetrate or change my own personal view of myself. However, in this world, especially in social media world, and especially as in how much, you know, responsibility we have to the younger generation, not everybody is built with that level of resilience. So we have to be mindful of the fact that your words can hurt people, and not only can they hurt people, but they can actually change somebody's life. Like, look at the amount of circumstances you've seen where people have committed suicide as a result of online trolling. Like, it's not acceptable. We should not be letting people get away with it and just being able to say, well, it's my opinion, you know, I'm allowed to speak my mind because it's my opinion. No, if your opinion is going to cause hurt or discomfort to someone, you should not be voicing it. That's just not how it's meant to be.
I think we're all aware of the internet being a sort of nasty place, but when you say that, when you actually hear it, because I mean, like you say, you can see by my physical appearance, I don't have that racial issue, or well, I don't have it in the UK anyway. You know, for someone like yourself to be getting that in 2022, I know what happens, but I'm still thinking there, going, you know, just shaking your head, thinking, why would you bother getting online to attack a woman's skin color because you know, she's won a pageant, and you know what business of it is you know, why would you even do that kind of thing? You know, we probably don't have an answer because, you know, who knows, you know, I don't know if it comes from a place of ignorance or jealousy, or it's hard to say, you know.
No, it is hard to say, and actually it makes me feel incredibly sad because actually somebody's worth is not defined by their appearance. And, you know, like, I worked very hard for that title. I won on merit, and you know, everybody in my category could have won, but we were all fantastic. But I did work hard, and I do deserve to, you know, the accolade. I worked hard for it. I achieved it, and I shouldn't have somebody turn around and say, oh, I only won because they were looking to tick a tick box. That's not how it works. And, you know, in this day and age, really, to tell me to kill myself because of the color of my skin, I mean, come on, guys, grow up. It's not about that anymore. You know, it's not welcome here. You know, the world has changed and it continues to change. And I think we need to be a bit more accommodating of people's personal circumstances and, you know, see people for who they are inside and less about what they look like on the outside.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talked about walking down the street with your partner, you know, getting the odd glance or the odd kind of not very nice look. You know, I mean, maybe I'm sort of steering into things that you don't want to talk about, but your own children. You were saying, you know, that you've got a white partner and yourself, so they'll be mixed race. Do the children think still get those kind of looks? Do you think? Do you think they're aware of it, or do you think because they're not Ava's colour as much as you, and whatever way that was, that's probably the wrong way to say it. But you know what I mean. Are they still?
I have a 21-year-old daughter, but she isn't my partner's daughter.
Okay,
but
okay.
She is the product of a white man, basically.
All right.
So therefore, she could be his child, if for all intents and purposes. But she's very fair. She looks pretty much exactly like me, but she's fairer than me. So actually, she's dealt with a whole different level of racism insofar as people don't really know where to place her. Sometimes she'll have, like, you know, these old-minded people that think that it's okay to have casual racist comments thrown about each other and make jokes about, you know, racist things, you know, slyly undertoned. with her, expecting her to join in because she's fair, but because she's not actually white, she's kind of like, well, hang on a minute, no, that's not okay. You can't say those things in this day and age. And it is just, it's ignorance, and it's basically, it's really hard. I think that from her perspective, because she is very fair, she doesn't necessarily look like she's mixed race, and she doesn't look white, so it's hard for her to kind of find that balance. And I'm the same, Chris, because I'm not black, I'm not Asian, I'm not white, you know, I'm mixed race. My mother was South African of Indian and descent, and my father is Mauritian, and you know, so but I was born here in the UK, so I'm, you know, a whole different melting pot myself. So, you know, race is very, very complex, and it's not just as easy as just saying, you know, black and white. There's a whole different spectrum of colours in between.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. And in terms of the looks, I've read a lot of stuff, and maybe people say, you know, they go into shops, and if they're non-white, they sort of get looks like, are you going to steal something? I mean, are we talking about looks like that? I mean, is that? I mean, I know it goes on, but you know, does it really go on? Is what I'm saying. I mean, surely it doesn't, because I'm hoping it doesn't go on, because it shouldn't go on. You know, yeah, it does. You're nodding, yeah.
Nodding at me all the time. I will go into, especially depending on how you're dressed. So if I go into a shop wearing a hoodie and a pair of tracksuit bottoms, I will get followed by the security guard. That's just, it's how it is. And I know that happens. You know, I think that is not necessarily because of the color of my skin. It probably is a factor because it already piques their interest, but down to the fact that I'm wearing something that looks like I could be causing some kind of trouble because I'm wearing a hoodie, and you know, those sorts of things. People are judged on their appearance straight away. And I have been followed around shops. I've been, you know, I've had people basically come up to me and say, like, are you going to buy that? And I'm like, well, I'm not finished yet, so maybe I might buy it, but now the fact that you've asked me makes me feel like, no, I'm not going to buy it, because I don't want to give you my money. You know, it's a horrible situation to have to live in, and you shouldn't have to be like that. You know, we're all people. Our blood is red, our money is green, you know, like we all have the same ability and worth in this world, so we shouldn't be treating people differently or making snap judgments based on appearance.
No, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, obviously, I agree. I read a statistic in the newspaper, and I may be getting it slightly wrong, but I think if you're a young black male, you're 15 times more likely to be stopped in London for a search than if you're a white male. Maybe 15 or 17, I can't remember exactly, but whatever it is, it's not double, it's a lot more than that. So it does cross the gender gap as well. So it's a real endemic problem that we probably, a lot of us, like myself, again, I keep saying, I won't know about it because I don't suffer it. You know, I've just got to read about it, but I can never appreciate what it's like, and that's why it's hard to know what to do, what to say, because I don't suffer it, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think you can be. You don't necessarily have to like understand it, but you can be empathetic about it. Like you can understand it from the perspective of appreciating that it does still go on, and don't be blinkered to thinking it doesn't. You know, like even driving, I live in a predominantly white area, so you know, just driving down the road late at night, if I'm driving down the road and I'm wearing, again, if I'm wearing a hoodie, if I'm driving I drive quite a nice car, I've been followed by the police all the way to my house. And then they've kind of looked into the car to see who I am and then driven off. Like, I wasn't driving erratically, I was just driving. You know, those sorts of things do still happen because people have to be, you know, on guard. Well, people feel like, the police feel like they have to be on guard. They have to be watching out for, you know, potential crime. I get it. I understand why they do it, but it doesn't, as the recipient, it doesn't make me feel great to think that they thought that I was going to do something that was criminal. And the reason that they made that snap judgment was probably because of the colour of my skin, or I had a factor in it. It might not be the only reason. I might have done something wrong when I was driving, and that could have possibly been the reason why they followed me in the first place. But it piqued their interest because I wasn't a Caucasian woman driving in the car.
Yeah, no, it's horrific, isn't it? It's absolutely horrific. And I'd like to go back to something you said at the start. You mentioned sort of the attention, the media attention of your win, and you felt that was muted because of how you looked. And you know, was that something, you know, when you look at previous people, had they had previous winners, had they had a lot more promotion or just a lot more interest because of? I mean, how did that make you feel? Was that quite hurtful?
Yeah, of Of course it is. And I said this earlier, I don't think it's hurtful for me because I worked hard, and I think that the personal achievement, yes, is fantastic, and I'm very proud of it. But I want to promote this for the fact that other young people who often feel like they're not good enough, or they're not worthy, or they're not capable of achieving great things, would see me achieving these things in mainstream press and media and think, hey, if Kat can do it, I can do it. So why are you not letting my story be told? Because you don't think it's newsworthy. But actually, what's funny is the black press, so the like BAME community, have been really, really strong in sharing my story, but all of the mainstream media don't want to hear it. They really, I've pitched to so many different journalists. I've told them all of the things that I've been through, and it's like, unless there's some wow moment, like I've drastically lost weight in the last 2 years, or I've gone through some horrific trial and tribulation, they don't want to report on me. Why do my Caucasian counterparts get press straight away, and I have to fight so hard for it? Like, my mum always told me that being a woman, you're going to have to work 10 times harder to have your voice heard. Being a plus size woman, add another layer. By being a plus size woman of color, add another layer, and you are the bottom of the rung, because you're going to have to work all of those steps harder to get your voice heard. And it should not be that case. I should be able to turn around to my local press and say, I've won something and I'd like you to report on that, and then say, yes, okay, Kat, no problem, we will run a story on you. And I shouldn't have to justify the reasons why I think it's important to be talked about. But the fact that people aren't talking about it, it makes me wonder, why don't you want to report on this? And is it because of that? Because if it is, you need to change your opinion. Is it because I'm plus size? Is it because I'm a woman of color? If it is, then your opinion needs to change, and you guys need to report on it, because other people deserve to hear it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, from a media point of view, not that I'm I suppose I'm an expert. I do work in it, but I don't speak for everyone. But for me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, the fact that you've done something and you've got a slightly different take on it, that's newsworthy. To me, it actually would encourage me to talk to you as opposed to not want to talk to you. But obviously, I can't speak for everybody else. I mean, that's up to them. But it is slightly unusual. I mean, in terms of going forward, do you think things are changing, and how can we increase the speed of change, you think? How can we get things better so the next cat in 40 years is not going through this, or 20 years, whatever it may be?
I think we just need to continue to use our own personal platforms. Like, yes, I'm not getting shared personally, we're not getting that exposure that we would love. However, it's not going to stop me pushing personally to get my story heard, to help and inspire other people to find their own personal achievements and be successful in whatever they want to do. Pageantry is not for everyone, so I appreciate that people say they don't want to hear about pageants all the time. It's not the biggest, not the be all and end all, but actually it's still a personal achievement for somebody, and it's a historic point. So I think that we do just need to continue to speak our truth. We need to be unapologetic in who we are. Like, I'm never going to turn around and mute the fact that I'm a plus size woman. I'm proud of it. I'm happy, and I would hope to inspire other people. Being a plus size fitness instructor is hard. You have people turning up to your classes and they're looking around the room like, where's the instructor? I'm like, I'm here, the one wearing neon colors and waving at you. That's me. I'm going to teach you how to be fit. And they kind of look at me like, really? Like, you're fat? And I'm like, yeah, and I'm still going to make you sweat. So it's a crazy world, but we have to just stand in our truth, keep working hard, hustle. Like, we have to keep pushing for change. It may not happen overnight, Chris, but it's on that path. So I'm happy to be part of that evolution.
Absolutely. And in terms of being Miss Great Britain, so when you hand over I'm assuming it's a crown. I think we can say literally, You
want to see it? I'll show you.
I would love to see the crown, of course. Yeah, let's see the crown. Oh, is that what that is? Brilliant. Yeah, let's see it. All right, yeah. Oh, amazing. My
baby. I'm not going to put her on because she looks horrible with hair.
That's brilliant. So,
in October. So right. I go back to Leicester, at the Athena in Leicester, and in October, and we'll be handing over a crown and crowning 3 new queens. So yeah, that's what it'll be doing. So you reign for a year basically, but my work doesn't finish after that. I will continue to try and strive for representation and, you know, equal representation of all people, shapes, sizes, abilities, all of that sort of stuff.
You say in the pageantry world, I mean, I know there's a lot of different various titles. Was that something you'll keep going with, or do you feel as though you've kind of reached the pinnacle of being the Miss GB of your country, and then you'll go out on top, sort of thing?
For me at my age, unfortunately, there's not a lot of options because I'm old now. I'm 38. Most mainstream big pageants like Miss World, Miss Universe, they cap out at the age of 27 and things like that. So I'm way past it when it comes to pageants in mainstream. However, there are things like Mrs. World and Ms. World and stuff which are geared at people, but they're much smaller scale. So I could go on and do those sorts of things. But yes, I've got a couple of eyes on prizes that I would like to achieve in the future, but I'm not in any rush. I'd like to substantiate my lifestyle. I've started a business in the midst of this global pandemic. I want to grow my business first and maybe get married, buy a house and a puppy and things like that first, and then maybe I'll go further ground. Who knows?
Oh, brilliant. You've got lots to look forward to. And just before I finish, I know you're quite big on social media, so maybe you can tell me where they can find you. They can sort of check out your pictures and interact with you. Where's the best place to do all that?
So basically the easiest way to find me is put Kat Henry into Google, K-A-T, Kat Henry. I have my own website, which is just kathenry.co.uk. That will link you to all of my social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all the different social media things that you could possibly think of. But just Google me, you'll find me.
And I mean, I guess social media is a great outlet for someone like yourself, because you can almost bypass that mainstream press thing. Obviously it's great to have that, but you can always promote yourself and what you're doing straight to the people.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here for. That's what being an influencer is all about, basically. Using your platform basically. So yeah, connect with me. But also from the flip side of that, my personal platform is to try and help other people and inspire other people to effect positive change. So if you want to use me, or you feel like my platform can help your business grow, or you'd like some help with representation for events or hosting, or even raising awareness for charity events, that's what I'm here for. So just send me an email if I can help you guys in any way. That's what Miss Great Britain is here for. So message me, I'm here.
Servant of the people. And thank you very much, Kath, for joining me today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. I can vouch for that. I've emailed you a few times. You're so friendly, so nice. You're keen to talk about things, and I would encourage anyone, if they've got any questions, about these issues, don't contact me, contact Kat and ask her about them, because you're talking to someone who knows about it. But thank you again for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the best in the rest of your reign as Miss Great Britain.
Thank you, Chris. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.